Welcome to the Sales Whisper Podcast, Session 33. Is your suitcase packed? Hey, yeah, you. I'm talking to you. How you doing? Thanks for listening to the 33rd session of the Sales Whisper Podcast. This is Wes Schaefer, your beer drinking host. I'm recording this intro on December 30th, 6:06 p.m., 2013. Just launched my new website about a week ago, and I've been working out the kinks, and good grief, I need another beer. So look, if you're struggling through whatever in your business, trust me, there's always another struggle. But the good thing is the struggles are at a higher level, and it is worth the effort because you're either growing or you're dying. You're either selling or you're dying. So embrace the change, embrace the struggle. Fight entropy, right? The whole universe tends towards disorder. Good old thermodynamics. That's what my meteorology degree taught me. And now I'm doing sales and marketing podcasts. Go figure. But hey, today we've got Natalie Sasson. She is the Suitcase entrepreneur. Her website is suitcaseentrepreneur.com. And very interesting story. Natalie has been traveling the world for many years, literally living out of a suitcase in hotels, attends conferences, meets with clients, rides bikes through crazy parts of the world, jumps over borders. She has been a bodybuilding competitor, ultimate frisbee, just crazy. She also came out with a book this year we'll talk about, and you can get the links on the saleswhisper.com, session 33. If you want a free audiobook, visit wesaudiobook.com. That's wesaudiobook.com, and you get a free audiobook there. But enjoy the lively discussion with Natalie, the great insight, the way she leverages teams. She has a virtual team that's literally spread across the world, a team of experts that she took her time to bring together to meet her goals. And that team is now firing on all cylinders, which lets her do what she wants to do and live her life the way she wants to live. So I hope you enjoyed this interview with Natalie, the Suitcase Entrepreneur. Natalie, welcome to the Sales Whisper Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. And
you are joining us today, you mentioned from New Zealand, right?
Mm-hmm. Land of paradise.
So I thought that was Texas, but okay, never mind.
I hear good things about Texas.
So you run Suitcase Entrepreneur, and I ran across your site a couple of months ago and have been secretly admiring your work. And so I appreciate you taking the time. But for those of us, or those my listeners that don't know who you are, can you give us a little thumbnail overview of who you are and what you do?
For sure. So I'm Natalie Sisson. This is a New Zealand accent, slightly internationalized. I basically help people create freedom in business and adventure in life. I do that by running my own online business. I have just a laptop and mobile, and I live out of my suitcase. Lots of people don't actually realize that I do not have a home, so I live in my suitcase, and I show other people how they can basically achieve that for themselves. Not the living in the suitcase part, but having more flexibility and freedom in the work that you do, maybe being able to run your business from anywhere in the world should you choose, whether that's your home, a cafe, a park, or different parts of the world. And I do that through really focusing in on how to use online tools, social media, and outsourcing to build your business and your personal brand.
Very nice. Do you offer hope and instruction and inspiration to poor individuals stuck in a cubicle, maybe paying a mortgage, and help them break those bonds?
Yeah, I do actually. I find I have two types of wonderful people in my tribe. Those are the people who are in a corporate job. Maybe they're actually enjoying that, but they're wanting to achieve more flexibility in it, maybe work remotely or feel like they're more of an entrepreneur in their role. And then I also have people who have a side hustle, so they're still working, but they have like a part-time freelance business that they're building, or they're just starting out. And then I have established entrepreneurs who have great businesses, but really sort of stuck in them. So they're very much running them. They have to be based on one place, or it's a bricks and mortar business and they can't kind of escape to go off and truly live their life. So I also love working with those people because there's ways to systemize what you do, outsource some of the work, and really start to achieve more mobility and flexibility and therefore freedom.
So leading up to this, we were talking offline, and so it's, for those listening maybe later, we're recording this early December of 2013, and this is your first time, you said, or second time home in 7 years?
Yeah, 7 or 8 years. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I've been living away from New Zealand for that much time, living out of my suitcase.
And how do you determine where you're going to go next? I mean, do you have like a year planned out, or is it literally hang out somewhere for a week or a month and say, you know what, I'm going to go to this place, and you get up and go?
So a couple of things that I've learned over the years. I tend to go to places where I've never been to the country before. Like, for example, next year I'm going to go to Japan finally. I also go where there are people in my community, customers or friends, people that I just love to hang out with. So if they're there as well and I get to be part of that community or get to meet them, spend some time, that's even better. If there's an event there, like a conference or a summit or a retreat that I'd really like to attend, I try and tie in with my travels with that. And it's a bonus if there's an ultimate Frisbee tournament, which is one of my favorite things in the world to do. If it has all three of those things going on, then I've hit the jackpot.
So are you sleeping on people's couches, or are you actually living the good life?
No, I've long since left the couch. I don't think I was ever much of a couch surfer, although couch surfing is great for people who want to travel. I tend to either stay in hotels. I love to live with friends in their houses, often if they have a spare room or a cottage or something else like that, more than happy to contribute to their rent. But I always like living with locals in the city if I can, or the place where I am. I love Airbnb. I love Airbnb for actually renting out apartments. So when I was in Berlin, I was there for 2 weeks. Actually, I was there for 2 months, but I rented an apartment for 2 weeks. I'm doing that while I'm back in New Zealand in some places. So I like to mix it up. Basically paid accommodation or renting longer term or using something like Craigslist to find people's places. And also I've started getting into a little bit of house sitting, which is perfect for me because I get to be in a house, which I don't normally have. I sometimes get to dog sit, which I adore because I miss not having a dog. And I'm doing them a favor as well. So it's pretty good combination.
So in your business, I was looking through your website, and I've got some questions for you on how you structure your product listing. I think it's savvy the way you break it into 3 tiers and let people kind of self-identify where they are in their business life. But are you doing any coaching and consulting, or is this pure online, either digital products and training they get from you? And I see that you're launching a mastermind, but do you do any private work?
Yeah, I do. So actually, I've just put together my business plan for next year. I shared it with my team this morning on a Google Hangout. I actually have 8 revenue streams, would you believe? And apparently most millionaires have 7 revenue streams, so I think maybe there's a billionaire in me. I'm just kidding.
Or at least a 10 or 100 millionaire, huh?
Exactly. So it started with actually digital products and programs like ebooks and programs that I put together online. Then I started offering one-to-one coaching and group coaching. Then I launched a couple of products, so I should say programs that were part mastermind, part training. That one's finished up for this year. It was running for 3 years in a row, and now I'm launching my first ever High Flyer Club, which is part mastermind, mentoring, and missions focus. It's kind of all the things I wish I'd had when I started out that I think entrepreneurs really do need to work on their mindset, their business, and their lifestyle. I also have some income from affiliate marketing, so I'm pretty explicit about who I support, which products and services I love to use for my business, and how they're going to help other people. So I only promote things that I truly believe in and take a commission for some of those things when I do. I launched my best-selling book this year, and that's led to speaking gigs. So the book and the speaking is great. I've got sponsorships now for my podcast as people want to align with the business and get in front of my awesome audience. And what else have I got in there? I do some workshops and events from time to time, so retreats and workshops that are in line with my brand. So it's it's really good. It's diverse, but it's always aligned with the same ethos and values, which is to help people create more freedom of business and adventure in life.
So have you had the Suitcase Entrepreneur since 2006?
No, I haven't. So I was actually still working in the corporate world back then. I've had actually 8 years experience in business development, branding, and marketing in some pretty great companies, actually. But 2006 was when I moved to London, England. I got a couple of great corporate roles, and the final one was like a dream job on paper, but it turned out to just be completely incongruent with my values. It was like a 50-year-old white male, old boys club, traditional professional association, trade union, just horrible fit with who I was. Great role, but I didn't get to actually really put that role into action. So I left that in 2008, headed to Canada to play Ultimate Frisbee World Championships and also start my own business. So I started a technology company, founded that for 18 months with my business partner, and then while I was there, I started my blog, and I just fell in love with this idea of the online world and being able to influence people and inspire them from a blog, and then built that somehow into this business that I have today. So pretty much 2010 was when the Suitcase Entrepreneur really started.
So how do you just make a clean break, move and go from England to Canada? I mean, most people, they worry about taking a job across town, making a change. And you leave a city, you leave a state, you leave a nation, you leave a continent, and get into, and you don't even go to another job. You start another job. I mean, those are all big changes that you just mentioned in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's called being brave and feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I've never, ever had a problem with making giant leaps of faith. I always feel that you can go back to whatever you were doing if you really, really need to, but you're not going to grow as a person or professionally if you're not making some big pushes in your life. So stretching your boundaries, pushing your comfort zones, and really seeing what you're capable of. So for me, it absolutely was the pain of moving away from this 9-to-5 role that I had got into. I was very much stuck in the 9-to-5 grind. I felt like I was in the rat race. I was not actually waking up and looking forward to going to work, which is very unlike me. I was commuting far too much. I was just actually really miserable. And so I listened to that and I was like, well, I don't have to put up with this. I mean, I'm lucky that I am, I don't have any children. I don't have a mortgage, but that's very much the way I've set up my life, is to be free of all those constraints so that I can make decisions and move on the turn of a dime and actually really go after what I want, which is ultimately to live life how I want, where I want, from where I want.
Right. Well, what advice do you give those with children and with a mortgage that can't just flip a switch and go? How do they make that transition maybe over a little longer time?
Yeah, I love that you asked that because I do believe there are ways to do that. And the biggest thing, I was just speaking in Toronto actually to 1,000 entrepreneurs, the most I've ever spoken to in my life. And I basically stood up there and told them that they need to get really clear on what their ideal day looks like. So a lot of people talk about, oh, I'd love to do this if I had the perfect life, and I'd love to be, I just love to sit on a beach and do all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at your current day, and then let's look at how you'd like to spend your ideal day, and let's start making more of those ideal days possible. So if you have family and dependents and, a business that you're running or a corporate job, can you, for example, spend one day of that week where you get up a little bit earlier and you all have a family breakfast where the family helps contribute to make that, or you have a little bit more time together, you turn off your mobile devices and you actually sit down as a family and you enjoy that breakfast. Or maybe you do that outside if you have a lawn, or potentially if you want to be in front of the water more often. Like, that's one of my non-negotiables. I need to be near water, whether it's an ocean or a lake or even a swimming pool. So if that appeals to you and you want to be able to throw open your French doors in the morning to see the ocean, but you're not actually in a place about where that's possible, could you go to a lake on the weekend? Could you make a trip to the beach once a week? Could you even go to your local swimming pool or something, so that you're incorporating a little bit more of that into your day? A lot of people dream about just taking the time to sit in a hammock and read a book. Well, it's actually up to you how you put your day together. So maybe if you feel you don't even have half an hour, which I think everybody can carve out, what about listening to your favorite audiobook while you're on the move, while you're on the commute? So you don't have to read it necessarily, but you're still getting to take yourself away to that book and really get immersed. So I honestly think it comes down to being really disciplined about what you want out of life and putting aside the time to make more of those moments happen and working towards what you'd ideally like out of your life. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And does it sound doable?
It does. It kind of reminds me, a friend of mine here in Southern California, Henry Evans, he wrote The Hour a Day Entrepreneur. and he talked about how it took him, I think, 3 years. He described himself as a corporate schmuck. He was a VP of sales at a tech company, and he had an hour a day that he could carve out, and he built his consulting business, so he could leave and do his own thing in an hour a day. So you kind of describe that, get clear on your ideal day, be disciplined. And I think, too many people want that quick fix, and it's like if you're 30, 35, 40, 50, and you have kids and a spouse and a mortgage, you can't just necessarily flip that switch. But who says you can't do it in 12 months or 36 months?
Exactly. I was just hearing about somebody who's been in the medical industry, which is a tough industry to get out of and really move away from. And they had been in it it took them 40 years, right? But 40 years towards working their way out of that to do something completely different in an artistic sense. But the point is they had a very clear vision of it, and they did very well in the medical industry, and then now they're living their dream, and they worked towards it with discipline and had fun along the way, hopefully, too.
So are you primarily helping people create like an online presence, digital products, info products, or are you working through the whole sales pipeline? I mean, where's your focus with them?
Yeah. So in terms of like coaching or even with the people, okay, let me break it down. So for those people who are just starting out or wanting the free information, my blog, my podcast, and my weekly videos really help them to get clear on that. There's just so much information over the years that I have on that blog. It's incredible what people find and apply. Then I have the digital products and programs are great for them as well. They're often slightly more on the entry-level side to give them the foundations and to allow them to take action. And then it kind of moves up into some more advanced products and programs through to coaching. And with my coaching clients, I predominantly prefer to work with people who are established in their business but are wanting to take it more online, build out their personal brand, gain better systems, figure out how to outsource things, and really how to plan out and package their knowledge and skills into things that they can actually put into products and services. So I do actually help my clients go from zero to launch, so long as they have the ability to invest the time to learn that themselves. I'm very much a coach that wants people to learn the stuff for themselves. I don't want to hold their hand the whole way. I want people to know and understand that they're totally capable of doing this. So it is quite a range of people, but in general, I love being able to help them build their online presence, create better systems, free up more time, and ultimately work a profitable business into a lifestyle that they love.
Yeah, I love what you said there about invest their time to train themselves, because I find myself in that same boat where I built a business of training, and then as I've added my team, and it's not that I don't want to train, but I found myself quite often caring more about my client success than they cared. And, and you have to kind of have to raise the bar and say, all right, if you want one-on-one with me, you've got to be a little stronger, simply because it's so draining to hold their hands. And is that what you found?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And I think it's all about focusing on your ideal client. So I love helping people who are at the beginning of their journey, but it's not the best use of my time, knowledge, and skill set to work with them one-on-one to get them past that beginner hurdle when all of that information is really pretty freely and readily accessible on my site. So I love to work with people who I can ultimately help get more results and actually, I guess, have the time and money to invest in themselves. There's so much that I've learned over the last few years, but if I really want to make an impact, it's going to be with those people who can also then help others in their position when they were to learn as well. So it's kind of like a beautiful circle that starts happening.
Yeah, I like what you're talking about, putting it on your website. Do you find people typically undervalue the knowledge and skills they have?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what holds us back, right? We think, well, everybody knows that. I can't write that down. It's like, no, write it down and sell it for $37 or $97, and then raise your prices and then make yourself more scarce.
Exactly.
So is that what you find? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I find that people undervalue because they don't necessarily think about all the skills and knowledge that they've accumulated over the years, how much they've invested into themselves. And then they don't also think about, the pre-work the during work and the after work in servicing those customers and clients. So I'm always trying to get them, and it's a work in progress for me too, but to think about what that actually means to them and what they need to cover their baseline costs, and also what's the return on investment for the person they're working with. If you could show me how to do something, Wes, that's going to save me 3 hours of time, and you're going to charge me, say, $400 for that, but it's going to save me that time it already cost me and get me results down the track, then I'm more than willing to pay that. You know what I mean? Like it's really putting a value on your work rather than thinking about hourly rates or, that aspect, which is tough to get your head around, but is totally needed.
Right. So in your traveling life, I mean, do you have a P.O. box? I mean, where does Visa send their bill? I mean, how do you do that?
Online, baby. I hate paper statements. In fact, I just had a sponsor for my podcast say, can you send us an invoice, a PDF invoice, and can we send you a check? And I was like, I don't do checks.
Right.
Like, it drives me nuts. I feel everything can be done online. That's the way I've set up my business and the way it keeps me flexible and mobile. I do have, there are a couple of cool services throughout the world where you can get a virtual PO box where mail and things can actually be delivered to, and then they will forward it on to you, or they'll open the letters and they'll actually scan it through to you. So those are pretty cool. I mentioned some of those in my book, but I actually have my parents still live in New Zealand, so anything from that point of view will still get sent to them. I get very little mail, and I also have an address in the US through a friend that if people do need to send something, they will. But most people don't send me stuff because they never know where I am at any one time. So they tend to do it virtually, which is a good thing.
Well, everyone that comes on my podcast, I send them a brand new MacBook Air. So I guess I'll just have to keep that one. Okay, I'll just use it. I'll put a smiley face for Natalie every time I log on to your computer, okay?
Well, you've got me in a good spot because while I'm in New Zealand, you can post me stuff.
Okay. All right. So you've got a virtual P.O. box. Do you have a virtual assistant?
I do. I have a pretty cool global team now. Actually, it started with a virtual assistant who was with me from February last year. Was my first team hire. I hired her for about 10 hours a week. She was based in India. She's actually just left to go and do more NGO and volunteer work, so I really appreciated that about her. So I have a new VA coming on. I have a chief happiness officer based in Las Vegas. I have a WordPress goddess based in Vegas as well. I have my systems sort of online business manager I recently have incorporated into my team. She's in Belgium. I have a video editor in Netherlands. I have a podcast editor in Philippines. Who am I missing? And I have a sort of a brand designer in the UK. So it's pretty amazing how that's just all kind of built up. None of them are full-time. All of them are either on contract or retainer. And I really try to get them to feel like they're part of my team. Most of them are entrepreneurs themselves, so they have their own businesses, which I think is great. And it just works really well.
And how do you find those people? Like through Odesk and Elance or referrals or what?
I walk the streets. No, I definitely, Referrals is a big one from other entrepreneurs in business. Odesk, I love Odesk and Elance, two freelancing online communities. So sometimes I'll just put out a contract and see who applies based on my specifications. Actually, quite a few have come through my community, which really helps because they've either been in my community for a few years. They then contact me saying, I love how you're doing this. These are my skills. Is there any way we could work together? And that's how I found Cher, for example, and Natasha, and both of those two have been great because they already buy into what I do. They already understand what I'm trying to achieve, and they're going to help me achieve my mission because they love what I stand for, I guess, and the work that I do. And you can't put a value on that.
And how do you manage everything, like with a base camp or some type of project management, or what do you do?
I would say there are 3 tools that it comes down to for us that is fantastic. So that is Dropbox for hosting all our files in the cloud. So any standard operating procedures, any training documents, anything we're working on that is a solid concrete document, video, audio, etc., goes into Dropbox. We use Google Docs for more active things. So if we're actually working on copy together or podcast updates or planning documents or anything else that can be commented on, we use Google Docs for that and our plan of attack for the year. And then we use Asana, which is a free project management tool. I adore it. And that's where we put all our tasks. We delegate tasks to each other. We keep up to date. We comment. We share files. And that's basically our project management system. And finally, we do a Google Hangout once a week, just with the 3 sort of core team members. And that's where we discuss what's happening, what's coming up next, any challenges, wins and successes.
Gotcha. And are you driving things, or do you have like an operations manager that drives things with your guidance? How are you leading that team?
I very much am driving things at the moment in terms of the vision. I very much want to stand out front and lead and show them how they can do this themselves in their own businesses and how they can support me in mine. But Natasha is very much taking over as starting to manage the team. She's my online business manager, so I get to come up with all the fun, creative things and say, here's where we need to be heading. Are we on track? Here's what I'm doing to be the front person of my business, and then here's the team backing it up behind. So that's starting to change in 2014 as well.
So I've had quite a few people come on that have written books, and I love picking the brain. How did you get that done, and how did you make it such a success?
Sorry, how did I go about?
Well, yeah, not only writing it, but getting it promoted, and, it's such a big success.
Thank you. I think you said I love reading books. How did you go about, doing that yourself? I was like, well, I opened the book. No, the book was a pretty fascinating exercise. I guess most people, 90% of the world, apparently think they have a book in them, and I do believe we do. I just happened to finally feel that I had something to write about that was useful. And so the Suitcase Entrepreneur book is a culmination of everything I've learned and applied over the last 3.5 years that you can apply to yourself. So I ran a Kickstarter, actually, because I wanted to make sure that it was a book that should be written, that people actually wanted to read it. And luckily, it got 121% funded, and about 200 people backed it saying, yes, I'd like to read this book, which was great because it also provided me now with an inbuilt kind of team of loyal advocates who wanted to see the book written, who could feed back to me on where I was progressing with it. They could support me in the journey. They could share what they really wanted to know. And even though I had the design of the book to be broken down into 3 parts, which is about being an entrepreneur and the mindset aspect and case studies of people who are really living life on their own terms, the second part is all about building an online business, and the third part is all about becoming a pro at being homeless, or really more about the travel lifestyle. It was fantastic. It was literally kind of crowdsourced inspiration. So even with the cover designs, I got people's votes on that, with the content that they kind of wanted in it, just to make sure I was on the right track. And then it came out. The other great thing about a Kickstarter is that I said it will be ready at the end of July. And then I had 4.5 months to haul ass and really write this book. So it was great for holding me accountable. I know a lot of authors who will sit on a book for years, but I had massive incentive to deliver. I never ever break my word or my promise. So it was brilliant for holding me to that timeline. And then I got to go on a pre and during book tour to really help spread the word, which I think was even better. So to your question, it became an Amazon bestseller in the first week, and I totally attribute that to my community supporting me and really being on board from months beforehand in terms of this book being a success.
So is it self-published through Amazon or CreateSpace?
It is. It's through Amazon. I also had it on Nook and Kobo, but I've pretty much just drilled it down to Amazon for now because I'm part of the KDP Select program, which allows you to put your book on Amazon for a few days free every couple of months. I've only tried that once, and it had 3,500 downloads in 2 days, so I was very excited about that. But it will be going on to iBook and other platforms in the new year. And Amazon CreateSpace is where the paperback is published. You're totally right. I love that service. So the minute you order it, it gets published by them and sent out. And I have to say, the physical book looks unbelievable. When I finally got it in my own hands, after other people had got it, because I had to order my own through CreateSpace,
right.
And it missed the delivery of the postal address that I was at. No surprises there, so I had to get it sent to the next place I was going, and I was just stunned. It looks really great. It's a meaty book, and a lot of people refer to it kind of as a Bible that they will come back to time and time again.
So it had a couple of questions for you. So on the Kindle, you just upload the PDF. Does it convert it automatically for you through CreateSpace?
No, it doesn't. I spent a lot of money actually on the back end. You don't need to, but I wanted my design to be beautiful. But for Amazon, you upload it as an EPUB file,
Gotcha.
I believe, from memory. Or is it a Mobi? It's either an EPUB or a Mobi. Both of those formats are really useful, and then it actually, makes sure that it's converted. And for the CreateSpace, it has to be a PDF, and they have certain limitations on width and all those things. But they make it very clear in their instructions, and there are people out there you can hire who are very adept at knowing all the specifications. So,
yeah, and then CreateSpace even has, you can hire them to help you.
Exactly, you can, which is not a bad way to go at all.
Yeah, there's so many great tools that people, they just have to pull the trigger, and just go do it. Exactly. Is that what you find as well? It's just, I think it was that movie, I think it was Matthew McConaughey, right? Failure to launch. That's the biggest problem affecting most people. They just don't get started.
Exactly. And that's why my favorite quote is, from Yoda, there is no try, there is only do or do not. So I know when I'm getting stuck on stuff, I'm just like, just do it, which is Nike, obviously, but yeah, I just think, just do it. Like, oh my God, what's stopping you? All these people who are like, oh, my website's not perfect, or I haven't quite got this done. And I'm like, just launch and then iterate, ship fast, and then keep on improving.
All of your PR I see on your site, Huffington Post, Forbes, Mashable, did you seek out, do you have an active PR campaign, or are you just putting out good content and people are finding you?
Ultimately, that has been a lot of just through putting out content, building my personal brand, being all over the social media where my audiences are. And then I've been picked up by a lot of those places. Some of it sometimes is proactive in terms of guest posts that I've applied for and then they've been accepted. But a lot of that has just come through really building a solid personal brand, being very approachable, and talking about topics that are really relevant that people want to hear. So recently I actually got flown to New York. I was really excited by Yahoo Finance, and I'll be featured on their site in January, which is amazing. So they did a whole video, and that's just because I fitted the description of the kind of person that they were looking for, where they wanted to talk about a traveling life versus a home life and the costs and the financial aspects of that. So sometimes it's right time, right place, but it's also being known and people referring you. And that just is incredible what opportunities you can get from that.
So you had mentioned doing a Kickstarter on your book. I'm accustomed to Kickstarters for like a product. Somebody's going to design a new iPhone app or something, but I don't think I've heard of a Kickstarter for a book. Can you elaborate on that?
It's pretty common with regard. So crowdfunding, it's a crowdfunding platform. Just in case people haven't heard of Kickstarter, there's Indiegogo. There's actually about 500 crowdfunding sites, and all of them seem to have different focuses. But in general, Kickstarter, for example, is very popular for people who are creating games. For gamers, it's massively important. For new technologies like innovations, potentially watches, like strapless heart rate monitor watches that I've supported on there. And then also around the creative arts, so whether people are putting together documentaries or books or even, paintings and photography exhibitions. So ultimately, at the end of the day, a book was an interesting thing to put on there, but really it's about the story. So if you can get people to resonate with your story, then you've got a far more chance of being successful on a crowdfunding campaign. So I could have actually funded the book myself, even though books get pretty expensive with all the marketing and the traveling and the publishing, everything. But I really wanted to put it up there to see if people would support the story that was behind it, which is my ability to ensure that people choose freedom. And it really just resonated with people, and that's why they supported it. But it is more common for projects, ideas that are launching, and innovations for sure.
So how much did you raise on the Kickstarter?
It was just under $10,000 US, which is, I actually benchmarked out all the prices and the cost that it was going to cost me for my book. And really, it was kind of like a little bit like paying myself had I gotten an advance from a traditional publisher. And I had been approached by a traditional publisher, but I really thought that the tools that I built my business on and the platforms just seemed so much more relevant to use those to fund my own book and get it out there a lot sooner and really be in charge and in control of the publishing. So it was a fantastic, a lot of work, but a fantastic way to do it. I think it really helped, as I said, as a marketing promotional tool and building a really loyal tribe.
Did you just use your existing team to help with that, or maybe you didn't have your team?
No, that was me. Yep, that was just me. So, yeah, it was pretty much all my doing at that point. I didn't really have a team helping me on that. And I think that's the beauty of crowdfunding platforms, just being able the ability to, I could have hired a videographer, but I was in the middle of the jungle at the time, so I shot it on my iPhone. I scripted out the video myself. I had the idea and the understanding of what I wanted in the book. I think I had a little bit of help with some of the graphic design elements, but ultimately for me, it was all about story and message.
Right. So, obviously, this podcast will live forever. But you're launching your High Flyer Club right now, December 2013. Will that be, is that like an ongoing thing that you see? And how is this different from your previous masterminds or other group training you've done?
Great question. I'm beyond excited about this club. This is probably something that has taken me 3.5 years to really figure out what I believe all entrepreneurs need. So I've been part of masterminds. I've run masterminds. I've done training programs. I've run them myself. I've just really looked at every single thing that has worked for me and other entrepreneurs that I've seen work for them over the years and pulled it together into one club. So entrepreneurs in general, even people in some of their careers, depending where they're working, it can get pretty lonely. And what I find works better than anything else is this ability to mastermind with other like-minded people to achieve your goals in business and in life. And through that masterminding, you make incredible friendships, you become mentors to each other, advisors, a support group, and from that becomes this kind of microeconomy where people start working with each other, doing business with each other, referring with each other, introducing each other to networks and connections that would be really beneficial to them. So it's made up of 5 pillars, and this is something that I don't feel I've seen in many other programs, and this is why this is actually a club. So it's kind of ironic because even though I love to break free from tradition, I'm kind of going back to the traditional ways where, you know, you actually had to apply to be part of a club, and the club was made up of a quality membership, and the membership was all about getting the most out of every single person. So it's part masterminding, it's part mentoring, which is group coaching with me, it's part mission focused where you're not getting, 29 videos and 17 downloads, but you're really focusing on getting one result from each mission. And the missions are based around your mindset, your business, or your lifestyle. So I'm bringing in experts to come in and present on one thing that this person can do to achieve a massive result. And then there's the microeconomy, which is mainly the Facebook group, the sharing, the communicating, the networking, the referring of business. And there's also a reward scheme, which I don't see in many other programs because I believe we like to have the peers acknowledge our work. We like to be credited for the great work we've done. We like to be compensated, whether that's monetary or just an acknowledgement and reward. So there's a reward aspect to it, a bit like the frequent flyer mile clubs, whereby if you complete the missions, you engage as a member, and you really actively are a part of the mastermind, you actually get rewarded for that. It's pretty comprehensive, and I'm really excited because it's invite only. It's an application only, and it's going to be very small cohort initially of established entrepreneurs. So I'm super excited about it.
So will this be something people can join later, or do they kind of run?
They can join. Yeah, they can actually start applying now. So the initial 25, I think I've actually already got. I've been doing personal interviews with every single person who applied and fitted the bill. And 24 of those 25 have been a hell yes. So I have back-to-back interviews today and tomorrow and onwards throughout this month. And I'm just letting people in as we go and building it up and making sure it has the absolute best foundations, which is very new for me. Typically launches, especially online, you kind of go mass market and you try and appeal to everybody. And this is very much getting people to really make sure they're invested and committed and getting the right results.
So will you keep it at 25, or is that the goal to start? 100
is my cap, but 25 initially right now, and then I'll be accepting members over the next few months and right through into 2014. But it'll never be more than 100 members.
So basically somebody will be on a standby list. So if somebody drops, then the next one can jump in?
Exactly.
And they won't miss out on earlier training? Do they need to attend something previous to be up to speed, or is it's always just new, fresh content and new ideas?
There will be fresh missions that you get to complete, but there will be an archive of the ones previously, and we'll probably be referring back to them and coming back to them to make sure that people are actually doing that work. But it is meant to be fresh and relevant with the ability to delve back into areas and look at them when you're good and ready to tackle it. Not every mission will be for every person depending on their business, which is what I like about it. I honestly think the value is going to come from the microeconomy that I'm building out within there, and I would also like to have 2 live get-togethers during next year to really solidify that membership.
Will Will that be one of the missions to actually find Natalie? If you find me, you can have a meeting with me.
Where in the world is Natalie Sisson? Yeah, I hope so. And you sound like you want to apply, Wes. You should consider it. You're a great fit. It does sound great, and that's been the overwhelming response. I think a lot of people are just ready for this. They're ready to commit and move it up a notch. And yeah, hopefully it'll be where they find me in the world. I'm always keen to meet with my tribe. I try to hold meetups depending on which country I'm in and how long I'm there for, and really try to be accessible online and offline. Now,
if you have to promise me something, if I apply and you determine that I'm too much of a knucklehead to actually, like, I need the 101 course, you'll keep that private, right? You won't tell anybody?
No, I won't tell anybody.
Okay, there's got to be like this, patient-client, confidentiality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Very nice. Well, I know you are on the beach at this moment, right?
I'm 50 meters away from the beach, pretty much my perfect dream location. Very peaceful environment, gorgeous part of Auckland, New Zealand. Yeah, feel very lucky.
All right, and it's your morning now, right? So it's almost 3 my time in the afternoon, but it's morning, yep. Tuesday morning for you, right?
Exactly, coming up to midday, lots of fun, more interviews for applications and a coaching call myself. I believe it's great to be coached, even as a coach. So, yep. Busy day.
That's great. I've got my own mastermind group coming in here in about 10 minutes. So
there you go.
I will let you get on with your day, but people can find you on suitcaseentrepreneur.com, right?
Yes, they can. They can find me and all my links to me elsewhere on Facebook and Twitter and all those great places. I'd love for them to say hello.
Okay. So please visit Natalie there, and we'll have all the notes from the call on thesaleswhisperer.com as well. And any parting words of wisdom or inspiration for our listeners?
Yeah, I have one of these favorite quotes, and it is my own. I am going to quote myself. And, oh, my God, I just realized that oh, that's right, my quote. So I had to think about it. It's the world rewards bravery. So just get out there and do it. That's some variation of it, but I really do believe, if you want the life that you truly, truly want, it's up to you to go out and get it.
Right. All right. Well, Miss Natalie, I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
The world rewards bravery. How'd you like that quote at the end? In the beginning, she said her tagline is creating freedom in business and adventure in life. So let me ask you something. Are you free in your business? Do you have adventure in your life? Yeah, I heard a guy say most people do suffer from ADD, and it's adventure deficit disorder. Is that happening to you now? And if so, why? And why are you letting that happen to you? We all go through this. I go through spurts. I'm working too hard. I'm focusing on things, trying to get things done, trying to get 100 things done at once, trying to raise 6 kids with the 7th on the way, keep this big crazy dog from barking during every time I record a session, try to love my wife, go out and pay attention to her as well. I mean, it can be nutty. But we live in great times. If you're listening to this from around the world, you're still, regardless of the country you're in, you're freer today than at any point in time in history. And certainly in America, obviously I could go into a bit of a tangent talking about the overburdening government, but I won't. It's still a free country. The opportunities, you can listen to podcasts like this for free. You can go to the library for free. You can get the tools and resources you need to build any type of life that you want. So what are you doing about that? What are you doing to create freedom in business and adventure in your life? And you know what? If adventure isn't your goal, but you need freedom, which I think is part of our DNA. I think God made us that way. If you hate going to work, if you hate waking up, if you hate that commute, if you hate getting on a plane and traveling and filling out expense reports and doing things for the man, then you owe it to yourself, to your family, to do something about it. So Natalie gave some great tips. Personally, being married, having a mortgage, having a big big family, a lot of kids. Her lifestyle is not my lifestyle, but I still learned from her advice on building virtual teams, on having weekly meetings, using Google Hangouts so they can see each other, and things of that nature. Leveraging referrals in your community and things like Odesk and Elance, and she was very diligent and particular about the people she brought into her business to help her grow. So look at all those things, pick out the 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 little nuggets, apply them to your life, and do it now. Make the life that you want now. And as always, I thank you for listening. I'll mention this a few more times. I'm excited to have Audible on as a new affiliate of mine. But if you visit wesaudiobook.com, you get a free audiobook. I've been using them now since the summer and really digging it. So check that out. And please, leave a comment on the saleswhisperer.com website. Leave a comment and a 5-star rating, if you would, on iTunes. That type of recommendation just helps me grow. And the more I grow, the more I can give. So again, thanks for listening and good selling.